And I'm Yoel, Dios, and today we have a very clear message for you all, that today is our moment and our change.
Let's find out what our community thinks change means.
Yo creo que el cambio fundamental en estos días consiste en pasar, ahora mismo tenemos implantado un sistema de economía lineal, que es producir, comprar y tirar.
We need to fundamentally think about the cost on the environment.
Change, I see it as a natural progression of most of things in life.
Choosing good change is liberating.
When you focus on changing something, it should always be to improve something.
It can be small tweaks, it can be marginal gains, incremental little gains that anyone can make in their daily life.
Any change involves an element of risk and perhaps stepping out of what we know.
I would prefer to see change as something positive, as like a new opportunity.
El cambio para mí es vida.
It's just a small adjustment.
No entendería el proceso vital sin cambio.
Change is the chance for evolution. Change is an evolution towards the future.
Tenemos que pasar a una economía más sostenible.
Cuando la gente empieza a ser consciente de sus propios actos.
Change is the end result of all true learning.
Now, let's find out what change means to us. What's change?
If you wanted to change the world, what language would you learn to speak? I wanted to be part of changing that world, and I thought I knew the language I needed to speak. I needed the mother tongue of public policy. And the fundamental flow is not money going round and round, it's energy coming in from the sun, hitting Earth, fueling life, and it's up to our ingenuity to capture that energy and put it to use. What if economics didn't start with money, but started with human well-being?
Today, our greatest reward ever imaginable is at stake. A thriving life in our home, our planet. And it is our choice to make a change and receive this prize. We, as a community, can take very simple steps. Steps that are as easy and familiar as setting a target, right? We all know what this involves. First, we need to be able to identify what is our current situation. Where are we at now? But most importantly, knowing where do we want to get? What are we striving for? What is our objective? To answer both of these questions, we are going to turn to a donut. But not any kind of donut, but Kate Raworth's donut theory, which is made out of 3 different parts. First, we have this hole in the center, where we find water, food, education, healthcare, basic needs. Then the donut itself, which we'll call for now the social foundation, and we'll talk about later. And finally, this part, this area outside the donut, the ecological ceiling, including 9 planetary boundaries as climate change, pollution, or biodiversity. So now you may be sitting there asking yourselves, how does this diagram of a donut show the world's current situation? Well, unfortunately, a large proportion of the world's population currently is living in the hole, meaning that they don't have access to the most basic needs. But at the same time, with our activity, some of the planetary boundaries outside, such as climate change, is on the verge of becoming irreversible. However, we're not here today to preach or to tell you off, but to show you the potential we all have. And now is when we answer our second question. Where do we want to get? What is our objective? And it's on the donut. We want to be in the social foundation. It may be curious, and you may be asking yourselves why again. And this is because here, in the social foundation, everyone will be in dynamic balance with the environment. But at the same time, all humanity's most basic needs as gender equality or political voice will be covered. As Raworth clearly expresses in her books and TED Talks, humanity's, our most important relationship is with the planet, because we don't live above it or separate from it, but we live within it. So let's give it the place it has long deserved.
However, we now find ourselves in the hardest moment when trying to achieve our change, knowing how to get there. Especially after setting our targets and our goals, it is a process of writing down clear steps to follow, what will make it all even more harder and more laborious. We have to start leaving behind vague steps that we may know as study more when it comes to exams, and start focusing on more precise and guiding steps that will actually help us achieve our goal. Looking back at our donut, Raworth presents us with two key ideas that are vital if we want to achieve this progress. These are regenerating and distributing. As Raworth inspiringly says, let's take the waste of one project and turn it into the food for our next. Let's vanish our take, make, use, and lose system, and notice that any object, any product, or any source can have a second, third, or even fourth life. And her second concept of distribution bases around the idea that how crazy is it that most of the power, wealth, information, or technology of the world belong to just 1% of the population.
Okay, so we're now at the stage of the presentation where we have established our targets, we know what our current situation is, and we know how to get there, right? So we came together and we started thinking about how can we make our generation, how can we make us part of this change? And we initially came up with the thought of making something huge, something massive. But then, as we kept on discussing amongst ourselves, between teachers and even classmates, we realized that this was not the answer. That actually, what we had to do is stake a small challenge to generate a big change. By small challenge, we mean making small tweaks, small adjustments to our daily lives, to our habits. Tweaks that can be very easy and simple, as for example, avoiding the use of tinfoil and bringing in a reusable wrapper that we can use over and over again. Or stop using at home cotton pads that really contaminate our environment and using something that is made out of cloth that we can give a second, third, or even fourth life. Our message here is for you to understand that everything will make the difference. So let's start now by pledging and making these little changes, taking these little challenges to generate a very big change.
We must also remember how incredibly lucky we are of being part of a school and a community such as ELIS Murcia, which has made its pledge to the environment by becoming a pioneer in sustainable education and construction. There is a very long list of ways that our school has done great in that sense, starting with the air extraction and conditioning system that makes temperature changes seamless whilst only requiring a minimal energy input, or the fact that we can reuse our own water with water pumps located under the fields and the parking lots that pump water up and down the school. I could go on for hours and hours. However, the truth is that it has not been an easy process whatsoever, but rather costly instead. And the reason behind this, as disappointing as it may sound, is that the demand, and especially the supply for these types of projects, is extremely and worryingly low. That is why us, our generation, and the future have to take inspiration from pioneers such as ELIS for any future buildings, schools, hospitals that we might be building. 60% of the world has been predicted to be urban by 2030. And a large part of that 60% hasn't even been built yet. So let's start pledging now to make a change. Because as we all know, we might be learning today, but we will be leading tomorrow. Also, there are other initiatives that we must applaud, such as Patagonia's, a clothing line, for taking such a long time in the cause.
Patagonia started in 1985 with their 1% project. Along the course of the years, many other firms, as for example, Boxed Water, joined as well. Their aim is to donate 1% of their sales and revenues to the protection of the environment, because what they want to create is a healthy and respectful alliance between business and our planet. And they do so by contributing financially with non-profit organizations that help protect and restore and conserve our land, our forests, our rivers, and our oceans, as well as promoting sustainable methods of energy production.
I'm sure that at this point of the presentation, you might be asking yourselves, how does the future we want to create actually look like? And it is true, it does seem like pretty far away. However, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals present us with a pretty clear idea of how this future would look like. We would be eradicating social inequalities whilst maintaining a respectful relationship with our surroundings and the environment. And again, don't be demotivated by the fact that it does seem far away, because we promise that if we start pledging now, it will all be easier.
That's exactly. Our future is in our hands, so let's start pledging now to have a better one tomorrow. But we need to understand first that nothing is immediate. That is why we all need our resilience and perseverance to move through every obstacle. But what we do have, what our generation has, is the opportunity that past generations didn't, to embody, along with technology, our innovation, our creativity, to mold the world's future. Because now, it is our moment and our change.